Good morning to you again. Good afternoon to you. And good evening to you from wherever you are joining us. This is Mayegun Live. Raise up your hand like this if you can hear me loud and clear. It seems that the battle is already half won, if not fully won. It is called the Fubara's Day in Rivers State today. Some have already concluded that it's over for Werewike, but a Werewike will be like that snake that instead of you cutting off the head and you mistakenly cut it into half, it can still kill. Like this broadcast, share it. After reading the caption of it, the description of the broadcast, like it, share it. Invite your friends, invite your not so friendly friends. Tell all of them that we might go today. The first part we're going to treat tonight is that of the concern raised by the Arewa Consultative Forum. You know them. They are supposed to be the socio-political group representing the Arewas. They are afraid that if the killings, the banditry, they call it, I call it the terrorism that is bedeviling Nigeria continues, right? They say it will lead to the disintegration of Nigeria if it should continue for the next 5 years. Meanwhile, Kwakwansop also added something to what we have to talk about this evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, the first thing you have to do after liking the broadcast is to share it. We are starting in a second. So good morning to you once again. Good afternoon to you. Good evening to you from wherever you are tuning in into Mayegun's Diary Political, the Temple of Truth, TOT. Tonight, dear brethren, let's start our gist from the concern raised by the ACF rather, Arewa Consultative Forum. It comprises of different characters from northern part of Nigeria, including partly the middle belt part of Nigeria. They are considered as the topmost socio-political group of the politically conscious leaders of northern Nigeria. And when I say northern Nigeria, the way they normally put it is to say including the middle belt. I know that is changing now, okay? However, when you say the north and the south, right? But this is a socio-political group created to give an identity, a sort of a leadership identity to some of these people from the northern part of Nigeria, who also, when it is convenient, will consider the middle belt part of Nigeria as a northern part of Nigeria. But no thanks to Buhari, who has changed all of that today. The people of the middle belt are distancing themselves from this Arewa, that, because according to them, when it is politically convenient, is when they are considered as part of the north. But when it is not, when these they are Islamic jihadist terrorists harmed by the same political class of the Arewa clan were killing the people of the middle belt, Arewa Consultative Forum were not really kind of keen or interested in defending them. However, you know them very well. They have so much influence when it comes to the socio-political stuff from this Arewa North. They raised an alarm. It's not new. It's just the tone that kind of caught my own attention. And what is the tone? They said these killings, this terrorism, which they have not really been very vocal about under Buhari, because back then, when Buhari was the president of Nigeria, as a Fulani Muslim northerner, okay, they believed that the rest of us that they were calling him out over his incompetence and his collusion, where the military of Nigeria were shielding these Fulani terrorists, including even the Boko Haram terrorists, that were considered as their misguided brothers from northern Nigeria. We were called enemies of Nigeria or enemy of the North. In fact, asking for Buhari to resign at the time or call for the end of his murderous regime was considered as an attack on northern Nigeria. It was so bad, guys, it was so bad that when the southerners or the southern governors convened a meeting, a security meeting where they decided to ban open grazing, the movement of cows by foot by this murderous jihadist called Fulani terrorists. This Arewa North and their governors, they called a meeting. It was such a funny one, right? That even the people of the governors of the Middle Belt, where the Fulanis were wreaking havoc at the time, attended the security meeting. And the outcome was that the southern Nigeria could not ban the movement of cows. In fact, it was an attempt, an attack on the North at the time. But now, Buhari is no longer in charge. Even though they are still the ones controlling the security apparatus of Nigeria to some extent, right? The Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of, Defense States, and so on, right? They are now more vocal. They are voicing out now is that the killings in northern Nigeria is so much that they believe that Tinubu's government deliberately underreporting it. Not just that, the media in Nigeria, they are underreporting what is going on in the north. They said almost half of the north is no longer under the control of Nigeria. It is not new. It didn't start yesterday. It's been like that since under Buhari, where terrorists were collecting taxes in Nigeria for areas where the Nigerians, the northerners, couldn't run away, right? Stayed back. They will pay taxes to cultivate their farm. They will pay taxes, right, to harvest their farm. And to even breathe, to live in that place, they pay taxes. Whenever the terrorist feels like the military comes in or they possibly like attack or kill them, the terrorists will take the revenge on the people. Almost half of Niger State is no longer under Nigeria. Half of Borno State is no longer under Nigeria. I mean, 1/3 or so of Katsina State is no longer under Nigeria. To the point that under Buhari, they recorded those places as ungoverned area. It stretched so far to the north central of Nigeria, as far as Kwara State. There are some towns or communities in the current Kwara State of Nigeria that are being controlled by terrorists. But they said, even though Tinubu may be telling you that they are clamping down on them, the worst case thing is that as more people have become refugees, internally displaced persons in Nigeria, most of those communities that were taken over by terrorists, they were still under the control of the terrorists. Like the people have not been returned back to their communities. So Arewa Consultative Forum are now feeling like if these things continue for another 5 years, most of these areas totally will be somehow balkanized from Nigeria, to the point that the terrorists can actually have their own country within Nigeria. They already have their own states. So, and they are raising alarm. that in the next 5 years, if things continue like this, it may lead to the disintegration of Nigeria. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, a lot of us who have been talking about the breakup of Nigeria. Now, I believe that majority of those who are supposed to be the intellectuals that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu called intellectuals, the supposed intellectuals who were supposed to sort of add their voice in simplifying the positivity, the advantage of breaking down this hegemony called, this contraption called Nigeria, which is a fake expression, okay? Breaking it down starts from breaking down the entire establishment that continue to hold on to this massive place that is not to the benefit of the citizens of that country. Rather, they have been adding their voice to why it is not possible. It is not a good idea for Nigeria to break the system into, starting with, break the system into parts where people of like minds, same language, culture, tradition, and the rest of them, right? They could actually handle and manage their own affairs, right? Even if it's going to be like a small clan and all that, right? Okay. But first thing first, break this contraption from what it is currently known as. Some people suggested that, okay, breaking up of Nigeria could be systemic. Okay. Systemic in the sense that presently we're all fused and forced together, and the people who created this local government, these states, they never consulted with anybody, including the people who currently occupies all of these states in Nigeria. We were never consulted, to the point that people who have nothing in common, they were fused together in the same local government areas, in the same estates, that we are still, every little chance we have, we will turn on ourselves and start killing ourselves. So some said, listen, people like us believe that breaking up of Nigeria doesn't have to happen like a sudden. But the people who are part of Nigeria today, they have the right to choose if they want to be part of this Nigeria. And if they choose to be part of this Nigeria, right, it must come from what we believe as some arrangements, all right, whereby they say, okay, if we have to still continue to be part of this, so, okay, how about you let us form our own little union or confederation within this space? People of same culture, tradition, or similar, right, language and all that. Erase all these Fulani created states, fake boundaries that were drawn and divided brothers from brothers and turned brothers against brothers. But no, they said no. Nigeria, the minority in Nigeria, they cannot survive the majority. For example, some of them said, if Nigeria break up, the Yorubas, we don't really like ourselves. And then the only reason why it is better this way is because Nigeria makes everybody believe that, even though it's not really like, agreeable, but somehow, some people still feel like they belong in this contraption in a way that if they break up Nigeria today, right, some bigger group from these subgroups, they will now begin to oppress the other smaller group. This is their argument, okay? Then I went back, I said, listen, before they started the creation of states in Nigeria, there was something called regions, right? It wasn't perfect. But guess what? It was the closest that people had to having what you can call their government. There were conditions that allowed every ethnic and tribes within this geographical space, right, that shared one or two things in common to live long enough that today it is still considered as one of the best and glorious times of this contraption called Nigeria, when you had regional system. Awolowo was an Ijebu man, okay, where you have where we had Akintola and Ogbomoso man. Now, Awolowo and Ijebu man with other people who were also like parliamentarians from all other part of Yoruba land. I'm talking about all the tribes that makes up what is today's Yoruba land, right? They had an assembly where everyone's interest genuinely was represented. If you see a lawmaker, if you see one lawmaker that is an Igbira, or you see a lawmaker that is an Ijebu, or you see a lawmaker that is an Egba, she is there representing the interest of the Egbas. He or she is there representing the interest of the Oyos. Therefore, your identity is not mixed. Then when they now kind of erased all of that, enough that somebody will now say, I am representing Ogun Central. I am representing Oyo West. And by the time you go to the place they created and called Oyo West, you will see the conglomeration. And this person may be from one of the tribes there, right? Representing about, or claiming to be representing about like 15 to 16 different tribes within that space. And to him, he is only loyal to his own tribe. Everything else he does for other people from that same place, right, is considered as privilege, not right. Okay? And to this day, it has brought us the worst underdevelopment and poverty. So when you see these educated people that will come around and say, Nigeria cannot go back to regional system. If you go to regional system, some people will be dominating others. There was nothing called dominating others. Let me give you another example. When they had the Eastern region, before they politically created the Midwestern region at the time, you have Western region, you have the Eastern region, right? So the Eastern region at the time comprises of like more than 50 to 60 different tribes, and they were all represented in the Eastern House at the time. So if somebody is coming and say, I am from Ijo, you will see an Ijo representative. He is not there to speak for a BBO. You will see a Yoruba representative. He is not there to speak for the Efik. He is representing his people and their interest, and clearly, he is never discriminated upon. Today, they match everyone together to the point that, you can really say, they do not represent anyone but themselves. So even if you don't want Nigeria to break up like that, if you still want this Nigeria to exist in a way, how about we kind of like promote the idea that says, let the people decide what type of government they want to run, what system of government they want to operate within their own space, not an idea that some are currently telling us that the only problem of Nigeria is that leadership. So we just need leadership. And I said this before. Even if you bring somebody that tries to say he wants to, number one, no single person can change anything anymore in that contraption, the way it is set up. Okay? An Hausa or Fulani man, a Fulani man that was supposed to be a northerner, is interested in the Fulanis. Meanwhile, in that same northern part of Nigeria, it is not just the Hausas or Fulanis that make up the place. You have different ethnic nationalities who come from different ethnic nationalities or tribes who come from that place. Who owns the land? But because of the way Nigeria is set up right now, nobody is representing anybody but their own clan. So Arewa enjoyed what they call the northern dominance for 8 years. And the rest of us, where we could go to places for all they care. Now, just to claim power, the Fulanis that are not indigenous to Nigeria, they have positioned themselves because of the opportunity given to them by Nigeria. They are not in any way, right? They do not have any allegiance to any of these indigenous people from this yellow part of northern Nigeria or the green part of that northern Nigeria or the Shua people, or any of these places, right? They do not hold them anything because indigenously, they are not indigenous to Nigeria. But if you ask all these people, if they still want to be part of Nigeria, under what conditions, then we can begin to have this solution, right? Than when you come to Yoruba land, for example, or you go to the Igbo land, or you go to the Igala land, or TV land, or all these areas, and you ask them, what kind of government do you want? What kind of administration would you want if you still want to be part of Nigeria? Now, people will come from all these places because their political godfathers pushes them. You will see people who have no allegiance to any of this land claiming to be representing them. But when you look at all of their actions and things they are doing, they do not hold any allegiance to these people. And that's what brought us to this level. That is why when they talk about security or securing the lives of people in Nigeria, when you look at the people talking about this, they do not hold anybody real allegiance than their own people, or try to make as much effort as possible, right, to put themselves and their people above others. And these are the people who are telling us that if we break up Nigeria, some smaller, some bigger group are going to dominate smaller. Are they not dominating them right now? When they have power, when they had the power, everything was fine. Just pray for Nigeria. If you disagree, that means you hated them. That means you hated Nigeria. It didn't work. A Yoruba man is there right now, Abi, and that Yoruba man who happened to be from Iragbi Osun, and then he was from Lagos as well, like, claimed to be from Lagos. Right now, the Yorubas are vulnerable in Nigeria. We are exposed, Abi, to who? To the terror of this same Fulani terrorists. But we can't talk. Some Yorubas will be like, if you begin to criticize this person, if they remove him now, what is going to be our lot? Meanwhile, we are being oppressed. In this same contraption, Nigeria, we're not represented. But they will tell you, hey, but you should be, Yoruba man be the president. Maybe the Yorubas are the ones in charge. And just like the Fulanis were told, and as well as the Northerners, who were not Fulanis. The Fulanis were killing Hausas, killing the Mangas, killing the Koyams, killing the Kanuris, killing all these people. Even though the Kanuris, who are also part of the Boko Haram, killing other people in this part of northern Nigeria. Those who are supposed to speak and defend them, they were shielding the terrorists. Now, those who are from that place, instead of them to speak up, they were told to keep quiet. A northerner is in charge. Do you want him to be removed? If they remove him now and they put a southerner there, what is going to be your lot? Now, that northerner is gone. And the north that has bled and bled and bled their own people for this political selfishness, the smart people in the room will come and tell us that if we break up, or if we go to regional this, some group will be dominating the other. What breaking up simply means is that people will decide a system that allows this dominance that they've kind of made you to get used to. It's okay. It is okay if some people dominate you this way. It's going to be worse if you go to a regional system. Or do you want the Egbas to dominate you in Yoruba land? Or do you want the Oyos? Do you want the Ijebus? That as Nigeria is right now, what they need is just good leadership. Good leadership from what? From what system? A system that is put in place to keep you totally suppressed and oppressed and your voice dead. So if Arewa feels like Nigeria is going to break up because of the Fulanis and the Fulanis murderers, the Fulani terrorists, and the Yoruba man is being expected to act on that, I don't know how that is going to be different from what Buhari offered. So last, it is going to be a bloody civil war eventually. And to those of you, the intellectuals, the intellectuals, who believes that this contraption can be remedied only if you can get a good leader. All we need is just a good leader. If we elect one good leader, after the end of that good leader, in your own experience of Nigeria, what's going to happen after? All your problem will be fixed. That you are worried that some people are going to become the controller of that regions. Who are the controllers of Nigeria today? Are the families, different families from either Yoruba or the Igbos or the Fulanis or the Hausas. So are those who are currently holding on to the wealth of Nigeria not individuals? Are they not family members of, are they not families of people you know? Are they not names that if you begin to mention their names from the west to the east to the north to everywhere, are they not individual? Are they not families? So these people are telling you that if we break up now, Yoruba land will be controlled by the Tinumbus. That is if the Yorubas let that. Breaking up the system simply means the people will decide how they are to be governed. If you don't believe